How is it going, everybody? Happy Friday. Happy Friday. If you're on here, hit the like button, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. And if you would like to show support to the show, you can do so on Cash App or Venmo Share Day. As always, be sure to support your favorite content creators. The best way to ensure that the content that you like and is important to you is getting out there is by supporting it, getting it out there. So y'all do your part. We have a lot to cover off today. I'm going to do my best to try to get all of this done in a timely fashion. I'm sure by now you guys are familiar with the whole situation with Eboni K Williams and her conversation with Iyanla Vanzant and how that has pretty much kickstarted this entire conversation about dating standards and specifically dating standards in Black America and being average versus not being average. This has all been the topic of conversation that's been going on lately. And if you guys haven't seen the video already, basically, again, it started with Iyanla asking Eboni K Williams whether or not she would date a bus driver. She says only if he owned a bus. And then, that started this whole conversation. A lot of people who took offense to that. She came back and doubled down and was like, I said what I said, basically. Unless he owned the bus, then it's not even worth it. And then she goes on to explain why, talks about white supremacy, talks about, having subpar expectations and being happy with C, D, F students. So it just kind of went on. And then lo and behold, she went on the Breakfast Club to actually further elaborate her points. And so what I wanted to do is review some of the things that were said and then really unpack this idea of whether or not Black men are average at best. Because really what this comes down to at the end of the day is Black men are just average. They're not doing good enough. They're not doing well enough. We have subpar results in the Black community, and men need to step up. That's essentially what I've gotten from this entire discourse, and I think there's a lot we need to unpack. So I'm going to bring it up. Again, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Let me see really quickly. Okay. Let me see. Shout out to you, Dane C. I see you in the building. I see Edward. I don't know if Edward is here. I think. Okay, so let me pull it up, and we're just gonna get right into it because the interview it's about 40 minutes. I'm gonna try to play it a little faster, so we can kind of get into the main points. But again, it's out of this whole conversation of whether or not these men are average, and also, I think it's interesting that we're having a conversation in lieu of the late Kevin Samuels, who really kind of started this conversation a few years back, with that viral video where he was talking to a Black woman who had unrealistic expectations. And again, it was yet another successful Black woman who wanted all of these things. And, but he went down to, okay, well, what do the men that you want actually want? Right. And he came back with pretty much your average at best. This is what you're going to be getting based upon where you rank, based upon what these kind of men actually want. And so he started that whole conversation around dating standards. And it's funny now, fast forward, we're still kind of having this conversation, except now the roles have been reversed, right? The conversation is that Black men are just average at best. Truth be told, I think that's not necessarily true. But like I said, let me get into it because I just want to play it for y'all, and then that's going to be the best way. Okay. For copyright issues, I'm just going to play the audio because I don't know how Breakfast Club is about sharing video, and I don't know. So I'm going to just play the audio. You guys can hear it, and then we'll go from there. She's having an interview right now. Let me show y'all real quick, just to give you guys a sense. She's having an interview with the Breakfast Club. It is a panel. It looks like, yeah. And notice, I want you to notice too. I want you to notice just real quickly, what she happens to have right in front of her. Bet on Black. Just take that into consideration. Just keep that in the back of your mind. As we're having this discussion, remember that it just so happens that she released a book earlier this year called Bet on Black. I think that's an important context to consider. It said 1 year ago today. Yes. I also, yeah. And also real quick, so I wasn't sure about that. Yeah. Yeah, so it was brought to my attention that Kevin Samuels, his passing was 1 year ago today. So again, just want to acknowledge him and the impact that he made in the space, and the impact he continues to make. Like I said, a year later, people are still talking about him. People are still using his intellectual property. Average at best, that was something that really came from the conversations that he had with Black women. So again, rest in peace to him. My thoughts and prayers to his family, to all those who were deeply connected with him. And as we can see already, the contributions of a Black man, whether or not you agree or disagree, whether or not you liked him or whether or not you thought he was harmful or hurtful, a year later, people are still talking about him. People are still reviewing him. People are still using his intellectual property. And something about that's definitely not average. A person's legacy, a person's memory going far beyond them, even beyond their passing, those are not average results. But anyways, so thank you. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. I was not sure. Yeah, okay, so it says, Breakfast Club will copyright strike you. So so I'm just gonna be playing the audio. I don't want to deal with no copyright strike, but y'all should be able to hear it. Okay.
Insatiable nature of the fact that we've got to have this conversation as Black men and women, and we're talking about the Black family structure and Black wealth building, and all of those are tenets that are tethered to why this has hit such a nerve and why it's reverberating. In a way, Tyrese posting about it, Jason Lee posting about it, Shade Room posting about it, Spiritual World posting about it, Ava DuVernay in the comments, Viola Davis in the comments.
What was Viola saying?
We get to. So that's a good thing. I want to start by that framework. Nothing about this is negative. People are disagreeing. People are feeling away. We're going to talk about it. But I want to start by the framing that we cannot have rupture in the culture and not do the work of repair. So to me, this is a conversation about repairing and restoring what has historically been a productive, valuable conversation and relationship between Black men and women that somehow, some way has gotten away from us.
Okay, so real quick, the interesting thing about this entire conversation was the initial conversation between her and Iyanla Vanzant. Iyanla, she didn't bring up race initially, at least in that segment. It wasn't necessarily about race. It was just, how do we find the kinds of relationships with the men that we want, from what I understand, right? So that happened. Now, fast forward, as things continue to talk, it became very much about race. It became very much specifically about Black men and what they need to be doing, and the lack of eligible Black men that are on our level. How many times have we've heard this time and time again, that there is not enough good Black, but there's not enough eligible Black men on our level. This is a common talking point. And so it's interesting to me that what seemed like, at least from the snippet that I saw, what seemed to be a conversation that was rather race neutral. It was just simply about what are the kinds of relationships that women should be looking for. All of a sudden turned into Black men and what they need to do and how we need to build the community, when that was not the context of the conversation at all. Also, backstory, Miss Eboni K Williams, Miss Pro Black Eboni K Williams, literally just had a white fiance that she broke up with 2-3 years ago. So I'm like, okay, so this whole pro Black building the community perspective, was this before or after you break up with your white fiance? Because I do find that rather curious, that now there's all of this care and focus about building the Black community and all these different things, which I think that's valid. But it's just so interesting to me that somehow that didn't necessarily translate into dating choices. But anyways, but let's continue.
Yeah, I think it's two different conversations. I watched the full. I don't care who.
There's a lot of people that don't know what you're talking about. They might have just tuned in and have no idea.
Do they live under a rock?
Some people, because you have to tell people what you're talking about.
Okay.
So it's some from comments that, because I don't want to misconstrue, because we only had a small piece of your conversation with Iyanla.
Sure.
So during your Iyanla conversation, she asked you if you would date a bus driver.
So let me back up for 1 second and be correct. I invited Iyanla on my Griot show. That Griot show airs on Byron Allen's network. The Griot airs every night at 6. Let's first of all start with this whole shit is y'all's fault.
It always is.
This whole shit is y'all's fault here at the Breakfast Club. No, love y'all. Y'all had Iyanla on. And Iyanla made a statement on the Breakfast Club morning show, and she said that a lot of young Black ladies out here are men in skirts.
Which you agreed with.
Which I found very provocative. Did I not call you that day? I said, oh, this is spicy.
I didn't know that part. Iyanla Vanzant said a lot of these lovely ladies out here are men in skirts. Do y'all agree with that? Do y'all are men in skirts? Shout out to you, Deb Will, with the 199. Says she took the pro Black angle for damage control. A lot to unpack there, but yes, I think I actually do agree, and I'm going to explain why in a little bit. But let's continue.
but love to participate in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then you do what you always do, and you went radio silent. That's cool. So then I invite everybody that knows Charlamagne and the loving relationship with Charlamagne. No, that's the shit he pulled. It's cool. I never take it personal. So it's cool. It's always love for 7 years. So then I said to my team, I said, reach out to Ayanla. Let's book it. Let's bring on the grill because I want to have the conversation and probably more productively, right, y'all? Black woman to black woman. Yep. Let's talk to each other. And also generation to generation. Let's talk to each other.
She old.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Jesus
I was gonna say
You should
season.
hope to get to that age.
That's it.
Oh, no, of course. I want to age. I want to age.
Amen. Gracefully, beautifully. Okay, so Ayanla comes on, and I say, this is the framing I say to Dr. Vanzar, to Ayanla. I say, sis, doctor, soror, talk to me about what you would recommend Black women do in terms of our posture and positioning. When you're right, I am showing up in a posture of building, providing, and protecting my own self. I'm showing up in masculine energy.
Which, by the way, this is what women actually fought for. I want to be clear, an aspect of feminism was fighting for women to have the rights to be able to provide, to be able to build, to be able to protect, to be able to have their own home, their own credit card, go to college, go to school. This was an aspect of feminism. So I want the context to be clarified that this is actually what women fought for. We fought for this level of freedom and agency to be able to do this. Now, again, I think maybe the unintended challenge, or what they weren't considering was going to happen, was that in the United States of America, right, in capitalism, not everybody can be number one. Not everybody can be at the top. Okay, like you're going to have the business owners, you're going to have the CEOs, you're going to have the managers, you're going to have the laymen. Like in a system such as this, not everybody can be in the top. That's what competition is. And so you have these women who fought for these things, but maybe what they weren't considering was that, okay, if you get this job, that is still one less man who's getting that job. That is still one less man who's getting that position. This is now more competition. So that is an aspect of it. So again, she's talking about the things that women fought for, kind of framing it as if, okay, now we're in our masculine, almost in a sense that this is negative. But I want it to be clarified that, again, women fought for these rights. And so we have to also own what that actually has meant for how that impacts the way that we interact with the world. Again, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe. Be sure to support your favorite content creators. And super chats, cash apps, as always, I will be sure to acknowledge our super chats. So let's continue.
We're calling. I'm conceding your point. But tell me how you would guide me to not do so, when I'll be honest, I don't really feel like I can trust that if I don't do it, that there's going to be adequate, keyword there, adequate provision and protection if I don't do it.
And which is how you said it.
That's exactly how I said it, right? And she said, beloved, would you date a bus driver?
So again, basically what she's saying is, I've been able to accrue all this wealth and money and success on my own, which is true. She's a successful woman. Given the different things that she's able to do. From my understanding, she was a practicing lawyer. I think she at one point was Miss North Carolina. She was a beauty queen at one point. She's been on the Real Housewives. So she's had a pretty successful career. So a woman with her status, with her stature, the hypergamous nature of who she is dictates that the men who are adequate, right? She uses the word adequate. Again, are going to be men who are literally at her level as far as accomplishments, as far as perhaps as money, degrees, accolades, or men who are above. Again, hypergamous nature of women dictates that they generally want men who are at or above their level. Some of them will admit this openly. Many of them will not. Many of them say, oh, well, no, if he has a good heart and he just does, like, they'll try to dance around it. But at the end of the day, the hypergamous nature of women dictates that they want men who are at their level or above their level, financially, career-wise, social-wise, all of that. So the problems that she's running into are, again, they are very, this is not the issue of your average everyday Black woman. Your average everyday Black woman who was working at the grocery store, right? I see them all the time at Whole Foods. This is no shade. Like I said, God bless the grocery store clerks. But I see them a lot, or working at Walmart, post office, UPS. Again, nothing wrong with those jobs. But what I'm saying is that your average Black woman is not having an issue, okay, finding men who are adequate on their level when about 1/3 of us are at or below the poverty line. This is not the issue of the average Black woman. So what she is talking about, what she is framing, it is a valid issue, right, for women on her level, which is a very elite the very small elite part of them. Now, again, the other flip side of this is because you were an elite running in those circles, you still were around men. You were a beauty queen, right? Like, she's an attractive woman. So you've had opportunity to be around those men. You've had opportunity to be around men who were on your level. Why were you not able to settle down with one? These are the kinds of questions that I think we need to bring up. But again, let's be reminded, the framing that she is setting up, that, okay, if I don't provide for myself, who's going to provide for me? Okay, granted, let's just assume that's true for her, who she's likely making well into six figures, if not a millionaire. Let's assume that's true for her. Your average Black woman, that is not their experience. Their experience is, again, UPS worker, no shade to them. Maybe they are a truck driver, grocery store clerk. That's what your average Black woman is doing. So she can't look at Eboni K Williams and say, oh yeah, girl, I feel that. She can't do that because she's not on her level. Most women being with a blue collar guy is at or above their level. Like, literally, they're not settling. They're getting the best that they can get. So I want that to be clarified here, that she's speaking for herself and for a very small elite group of women. But most women do not have that lifestyle, do not have her connections, do not have her success, and so therefore cannot adequately say that what she is saying applies to them. Let's continue.
And then the clip goes. And then I did stare into the abyss because I wasn't really sure where we were going. But okay, because she is an elder and she's also my soror in the deference, if you know, you know, I'm going to go with you. Mm-hmm. So I honestly answered y'all in that moment. If he owned the bus. And that's what I said, Envy. But what people heard based on the comments, that I said bus drivers wasn't shit. People heard that I said that bus drivers broke, don't make no money, ain't got no benefits, and that they were beneath me. That somehow was the interpretation of me saying that I will date a bus owner. Now, let me tell you what I actually said, and this is what the whole Holding Court shit was about. Go check that out right now where you get your podcast, Holding Court with Eboni K Williams featuring Dustin Ross. I said on Holding Court, y'all, let me tell you why ownership is it for me. It's not about salary. Y'all made it about salary. Y'all started debating 125 a year versus 160 a year versus 200 a year.
Well, you did quote stats before you went into the thing with Yaya. You talked about women who earn more money than men.
And I talked about Black women buying more homes. We buy homes single Black women are buying 20% of the market share of new real estate on the market. I know because I just closed last summer and it was a shit show in underwriting. That's another conversation.
They're graduating more. They're in college. Yeah.
I sent it to you, Charlamagne, because Charlamagne, you guys do so much work on the Breakfast Club about what? HBCUs. Yep. And I was devastated when my good friend Eugene Scott sent me a post, Washington Post article that said Black men are going to HBCUs 1 to 2. It's 2 to 1 for Black women graduating. So these are things we got to look at because you have daughters and you have daughters and some of y'all in here got daughters. And if they're going to want to partner and marry men and Black men at that, and they're going to want to build together, as you two cite your marriages as examples of, we gotta talk about how people can be equally yoked. So.
Okay, real quick, and I think shout out to Dr. T. He actually breaks this down where he I think it was it Richard Reeves? The name is escaping me, but basically we talk about the problem of men and boys, right? And how this is something that is not just impacting the Black community, but all communities. You see the white community, Asian community, Latino community, you see that women are outpacing men as far as education. And there's also been more recent studies that are basically showing that education disproportionately benefits women, and even its style of schooling, the style of training disproportionately benefits and impacts women. Yeah, so it's either Richard Reeves or where, yeah. But basically, yeah, there's so you got it's gotten so bad that now you got white folks talking about it. You already know when it's starting to impact white folks, when it's starting to impact folks on the mainstream level, then it's a real issue. So that it's not just Black people where you're having more of the women going to colleges, more of the women, outpacing doing things of that nature. There's a reason for this, and it's not just because the men are subpar. It's not just that, right? There's been different studies about if in the Black community, specifically, where there's this expectation that women are going to do better and should do better scholastically. And then there's an expectation that the men won't. And so sometimes these boys are already set up for failure. And then on top of that, you go into classrooms that are set up to favor and to coddle a more feminine response, right? To basically favor and coddle how girls and how women would be taught. And they don't necessarily speak to the male experience. They don't know how to teach men in a way that they could understand, in a way that would benefit them. And so the system itself is already set up to where men are being marginalized. And it's gotten to the point to where it's so bad that it's impacting all races of men. And so I do think when we're talking about these things, when we're talking about why aren't these men going to college, why aren't they doing this, it's not just because they're bumbling idiots and all they could do is D's and F's and that's the best they could do. She kind of framed it like that previously in her I said what I said response, right? When she talked about, though, these are the same men who probably had C's and D's. So she framed it like that, but it's like, it's no, it's not just that. There are other reasons. As I mentioned in my live yesterday, you actually have men who were quite logical, who looked at their financial portfolio, who looked at the trajectory of what they wanted to do and thought that it was a better logical and financial decision for them to not go to college, to get a trade, and to be making six figures within the first couple of years of their working career, right? Versus going to college for 4, 5, 6, 8 years, now being in $100,000 of debt, now going into corporate and having to intern and start at the bottom. Like, so there were men who were actually quite logical who said, I don't actually want to get involved in this feminist indoctrination because that's largely what it is when you go to college, right? It's everything is told from a feminist point of view. I don't want to do that, get a whole bunch of different debt, and then now I got to go and I'm interning here and I have to go through all these years in corporate to maybe hopefully get, a decent paying job while I'm now trying to pay off debt, bunk me trying to get a home because I have the school loans. And so again, there are men who actually looked at that and were just like, college is not for me. And they were better off. They're making six figures. They're making the same amount of money minus the debt. And so again, when we're talking about these things, just because a person doesn't have a college degree even doesn't necessarily mean that they're not able to take care of themselves. It does not mean they're not necessarily able to move ahead in society. Because now, given the way that college loans is weighing people down, I think we have to be a little bit more nuanced when we talk about wealth and wealth building and things of that nature. But what she's speaking to, I think the unspoken rule here, again, is the hypergamous nature of women. She is like, well, our daughters are going to college and our sons aren't. How are they going to be equally yoked? So what she's speaking to, the underlying thought here is the hypergamous nature of women, right? The issue is these women go to college, they're going to want other men who go to college so that they can feel that they're not settling. That's the underlying issue. The issue isn't necessarily that these men are not able to make money, because there are men out there, like I said, trades, who with trade skill, who blue collar workers who are already deep into six figures. So you said cloud administrators make a 500K. I'm not as familiar with that, but I would not be surprised. So let's continue with this breakdown.
So back to ownership, Charlamagne. I said ownership is key for me. Why? Not because I'm a bougie bitch. This is not about everybody being a Harvard surgeon. This is about this book right here, Bet on Black. You read it, Charlamagne. Y'all were at the party. Y'all know what time it is. It's hard to be free in America as a Black person when you don't own anything. And I mean that with my fiber and my being, and I'm going to prove it to you. My grandfather, Kerry James Williams, had a 4th grade education in Montpelier, Louisiana. He then provided for my family with everything they needed by doing 5 things at one time. That man cut hair. He made and sold moonshine. He cut graveyards on the weekend. He also worked a salary job at a feed mill. If you know about that feed mill life, then you know. My point in this is saying this, and then he raised my mother, Gloria, who also did not complete college. She took 2 years at Texas Southern. She said, how much? 50,000. It ain't gonna be that for me. And she pieced out. And she started her own business. She drove the bus. So for all of y'all in the comments, well, my daddy drove a bus. Well, my mama drove a bus. My mother drove a bus as well, y'all. She drove a bus until she acquired a skill set. In her case, it was cosmetology. She drove the bus in the morning, the school bus. She would get off the bus. She would go to Universal Beauty School off of Beatties Ford Road in Charlotte, North Carolina. She would then get back on the bus, drive the afternoon shift. Then she would come check on me, make sure that I was doing what I needed to do. And then she would go drive for UPS. So for those of y'all talking to me like I don't know what a CDL license can do, I helped my mom study for a CDL when I was 9 years old. I promise you I know about that life. My point is this. It's about skills. It is nothing wrong with driving a bus if that is your maximum skill set. I simply want to call Black America up to the excellence that I know we can occupy. I've seen it before. Entrepreneurship is the key to me. That's not just me talking. That's Earl Graves Sr., the founder and visionary of Black Enterprise.
So now we're in the Pro Black, Build Black conversation. And you remember what I said initially, that I wanted you guys to pay attention to what happens to be right in front of her during this entire interview? Bet on Black. What's Bet on Black? Let's look it up real quick. What is Bet on Black? What is that book that she happens to have right in front of her during this interview surrounding this entire controversy? Let's just look really quickly, because this might provide just a little bit of context as to what is perhaps truly driving this conversation. Okay, let's see if we have a Amazon. It says, journalist, attorney, and star Bravo's The Real Housewife reshapes the cultural landscape of achievement by showing why Black unity is crucial to individual and collective success. Oh, wait, I don't think you guys are seeing this. Okay, let me see this. Sorry. Okay. Eboni K Williams knew that an important part of her mission as a media personality would be to unabashedly place Blackness on a pedestal. And again, look, I have no problem with this. I'm just wondering if she came to this revelation before she decided to date and get engaged to a white man or after. But let's continue. No more, Williams says, proclaiming that the good news about being Black today is that our community has unprecedented access to an array of tools to honor our Blackness, however we see fit, wherever we see fit, whenever we see fit. Bet on Black is thus a call to action for Black people all over the world to adopt a fresh, highly informed mindset that will change lives. She delves into some of the cornerstones of leading a first Black life. You guys, a first class Black life. You guys, this is really what this is what she's about, guys. A first class Black life. Don't let anyone make you their Black sidekick. Carry your Blackness proudly everywhere you go. Subvert stereotypes and do you. Disrupt oppressive power structures. No need to code switch. Show up as you beautifully are. Get together. Black community is invincible when we get together. So, I want you guys to just think about how coincidental it is that she had a conversation about relationships. The whole conversation was just about relationship dynamics. Somehow this conversation now pivots to why Black people need to build wealth, and we need to believe in our community, and we need to, build each other up and talk about being a first class life. And oh, by the way, it just so happens that her first class pro-Black, bet on Black ideology, she just happens to have a book. She just so happens to have a book around the time she just happens to go viral around dating standards, where she pivots the conversation on dating standards and why she really is pro-Black, and she really believes in the well-being of Black men and Black women and the Black community, and wants to see us do better, and wants to see us build generational wealth and build things and buy homes and own and grow our community. And I'm like, hey, you know what? No problem. I think that it is good and profitable to try to find ways to build the Black community. I just like to ask the question, did she come to this revelation before or after her white fiance? Like, was she not code switching? Was she getting together, building the Black community, carrying her Blackness proudly wherever she went? Was she doing that before she was with the white man, or was after? At what point did she come to this revelation? Because see, here's the issue. One of the issues that people have today with they call it the pro-Blacks, which God only at this point, this has no meaning, but let's just bear with me for a second. One of the issues with the pro-Black space, right, is that it's pretty much become a grift, truthfully. And anytime you see a pro-Black woman specifically, it's like the first thing you have to ask her now is, do you have mixed kids? Specifically pro-Black women. I hate to say it, but it's like specifically pro-Black women who are so, when they like lead with their Blackness, and when they lead with their lineage, when they lead with whatever, like when they are like hyper vigilant about their pro-Blackness and build Blackness and all that kind of different stuff, usually one of the first things you want to ask them or determine is whether or not they have mixed kids. And I hate to say it, I hate to say it, but it's become like it literally has become a grift. And this is actually why you have people out there who was just like, I don't anything pro-Black, any of that kind of different stuff. They're like, because like literally it has become somewhat of a grift. And I know some of you guys said, wait, hold up. She had a white man. Let's just do a little bit of, just backtrack just a bit. Just a little bit. Just a little wee bit. So, yes, here is her ex, Eboni K Williams. The don't let anyone make you their Black sidekick. Carry your Blackness proudly wherever you go, wherever you go, wherever you go. Subvert stereotypes and do you disrupt oppressive power structures. Get together. Black community is invincible when we are together. This is the same Eboni K Williams. The same one. The same one. And again, I am not one who hates anybody. If you want to date or marry out, I don't really care. Just do you, boo. Have fun. But it is just rather convenient and quite interesting that the same Black woman who just a few days ago was literally shaming Black men turned around and said, oh, I believe in the empowerment and the betterment and the belief and the potential of Black men. I believe in them. It's just kind of ironic that the same woman believed in them so much that she just happened to get engaged to a white man. I mean, I found that quite interesting. Very interesting. And so, unfortunately, you know, they call it the pro-Black space, which is like, what does it even mean anymore? It's kind of become a grift. And a lot of times people don't even take this stuff seriously. And partially, this is one of the reasons. It's because people seem to be inconsistent. And I'm not one to say, look, you have to be perfect. Even if you think of Malcolm X, right? He had a time when he was a pimp and he was doing all kinds of different stuff. And then he later realized that, hey, that's not helpful. And he dedicated his life to trying to build and do positive things for the Black community. Whether or not you agree or disagree, he didn't have a perfect past, but he evolved and he tried to be consistent. The problem is today, it seems like people will grift to that when they try to want to make money or when it seems like they've run out of other options. And it doesn't really always seem authentic. And I'm going to continue to play this video because I think as she continues to talk, it to me reveals why I personally think this whole pro-Black thing that she's pushing and bet on Black, building Black, I don't know that it's really authentic. But let's continue to play and I'll show you why. Again, guys, if you're here, like, share, subscribe, support your favorite content creators. If you like this content, yeah, okay. So, and the best way to ensure that your comment is read, y'all already know the drill. If you like what I'm doing here, the best way you can show that you like what I'm doing here is through hitting that Cash App, Venmo, all that, because this is a community ran, community funded enterprise. Let me pull this up. Okay. Yeah, so I think she starts to telling herself, again, this is my opinion. But okay, let's play it.
About Black enterprise, Black ownership, and Black liberation. And it is important to me. It's in my DNA. It's my personal legacy. Because my mama told me, y'all, nobody will pay you what you will pay you. And this is not about shaming bus drivers, but I want to be clear. If you are driving a bus today, and that is the maximum of your skill set, I love and appreciate it for you. I have to because it's an honest day's living. But I want to tell you the truth. And this is not about hurting feelings or talking down or being an elitist. I need you to know that in 10 years, you may or may not have a job because AI, artificial intelligence. See, this is the part nobody wants to talk about.
The lawyers might not have a job in 10 years.
They might not. And that's why I'm glad you're going there, Charlamagne, because this is the part of the conversation that people really are feeling triggered by.
No, I personally, I don't think that's the aspect of the conversation that people are feeling triggered by. Well, and maybe there is some who are doing that, but I think the real reason a lot of people felt triggered was because she pretty much went online and was condescending to an entire class of men. But She didn't go and say, okay, maybe I said that wrong. Maybe I'm sorry. She didn't do that. She doubled down and then tried to seem as if she believes so much in the empowerment of Black men and so much in the empowerment of the Black community that she has a book where she happens to break down her beliefs. And also, by the way, she believes in our unity so much that she just happened to be engaged to a white man. That so much. So that's what I'm saying. It's like, that's not, people aren't triggered because of AI. People know about that. I mean, well, no, take that back. Some people I'm sure are a little bit nervous about that. There's a lot of aspects of the economy that are unclear. So that, I'm sure that is in the consciousness of certain people. But the main reason people were mad, it wasn't because they're deflecting from the fact that, oh, AI could be taking my job. That was not the initial reason people got upset. People got upset because you pretty much were condescending on a whole class of men, talking about they need to do better. And also, can we just have like a moment of truth? A lot of men, first of all, they're looking at that because it's like, she's speaking to men. She's not really speaking to women. Notice she's not talking about the things that disproportionately affect us, like our health, our obesity, our poverty rates, right? Homelessness, the increase of incarceration, of single parent household. Like, so notice how she's completely overlooking what is negatively impacting women and where Black women, quite frankly, are failing or need help. And she's zoning in on the men. Men didn't do this, men didn't do that, almost as if she's trying to help hold them accountable. But again, the problem is, it's like, what position, what qualifies her to hold any of these men accountable when she's not even paired with a Black man, when she's not even married, when she does not have a successful history of being in a relationship with any Black man long term? And so a lot of Black men are going to look at this and be like, what are you talking about? Like, nobody's taking you seriously. You're actually the kind of woman that we're grabbing our passports to get away from. This is what they're thinking. And it's not because she's unattractive. It's not because they're intimidated by her career. It's the tone, it's the classism, it's the condescension, but the inability to actually own up and say, yeah, I kind of see you as a little lesser than. It's the doubling down, and then it's just not necessarily being totally honest. That's why men were triggered. Okay, let's continue.
We all have to reassess constantly our skill set and how it's applicable today and how it might or might not be applicable tomorrow. So this goes back to everybody in the comments. Well, my daddy drove a bus and he did this and this and he was respectful. And he was a good Black man. He was a great Black man, I'm sure. I'm sure all the bus drivers are saints and none of them cheat and none of them beat women and they all are just God-fearing men that show up and how they're supposed to in this world. I believe
not all.
So again, there's a very much a feminist slant in this. I'm not one to say that all men are perfect. Obviously, no. Obviously that there are men out there who are not living up to the full potential and they have issues. There are obviously issues within the Black community that impact men and women. I don't think anybody anywhere denies that. The problem becomes, who gives anybody the right to do that? What qualifies her? A woman, again, who does not have, from what we can see, a history of partnering with any successful Black men for any long length of time, at least not for marriage, none of that in a way that's significant. What gives her the right to now turn around and then now try to hold Black men accountable or pull them up to a standard when she hasn't even met the bare minimum of what these men are measuring women by? Most men are, if you want to talk about success, they're looking at you like, okay, who are you married to? Because when you want to talk about career, when you want to talk about, okay, men need to come up to the full potential, men are looking at you like, okay, well, what potential have you served as a woman? Who are you with? What men can you partner with? You're over here talking about we're having substandard results. How about the declining marriage rate? So then, anyways, let me continue because she gets a little bit further into it.
But I'm saying
that's the narrative. It's sarcasm. That's the narrative.
Yeah.
And all people that dare to own, that dare to advance a skill set in a different kind of way, not a better way or a worse way, a different kind of way, they all have full-blown AIDS, beat their wives, and will die alone. That's the narrative.
What Tyler Perry movie is this?
That's what I'm saying.
It's temptation.
It's very Tyler Perry.
It is.
But Ebony, what about the bus drivers that
their goal was to own a home. And what if they came from something that necessarily wasn't the best education, and driving the bus is
I think we got to broaden the conversation. I think we keep using words like bus drivers and everything.
This is what bothers me, to make it seem like bus drivers only drive buses.
Why would you talk about bus drivers?
Because
let's generalize.
We can talk bus drivers, we can talk police officers, we can talk MTA workers, we can talk all these different people that work at these quote unquote average jobs.
Everyday working class people.
Now, this is my problem, right? Now, you know, I do real estate and I do these seminars all across the country, right? We get thousands of people. The majority of people that own homes and investment homes are your quote unquote average workers, all your bus drivers, all your MTA workers. So they just don't drive buses. They have properties. I know a police officer that drives Ferraris because it's not from his police job. It's from the houses that he owns that he made off to the police job.
You sure it's not from the cocaine?
I'm 1,000%. I'm 1,000%. He has more properties than you, me, and Charlamagne put together. That's who he is.
That's a joke.
But they take it serious. But I know these people that do, and they put in hard work. So when you said I wouldn't date a bus driver unless he owned his own bus, a lot of people felt it like, yo, that's disrespectful because just because I took a job. And a lot of people take those jobs for a couple of different reasons. One, the benefits, right? They know they can work for 20 years. After 20 years, they can retire and they still get the retirement and they still get their benefits. So after 20 years, they can. Most police officers, the same thing. They get their retirement, they can still carry their firearm, and they can still get their benefits.
Again, this is my whole point. We're using these arbitrary metrics, assuming as if just because a person has a college degree, that automatically means they're going to be highest on the income bracket, that automatically means they're going to have the least amount of debt, that automatically means they're going to have more assets. And no, that's not necessarily the case. As I mentioned before, there are men out there who literally weighed all their options and they were like, the best course of action for me long-term financially is for me to not go to college, for me to get a trade, for me to make six figures early on, you know, a couple of years into my career. And now I could invest in a home. Now I can, you know, I have the freedom to do this. Now I have the freedom to take care of a family minus the hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt that I might get in. Then again, this is obviously not to downplay those who decided to go to college, because we do need our doctors, we do need our engineers, we do need, like, there's a place for that. But I'm saying that doesn't mean just because a person didn't go that route that they're financially they were just DF students, that they were average, that they only did that because they couldn't do any better. It's like, no, actually, some people, that was the best, smartest decision for them. Not only personally, as far as it being fulfillment for their life, but also financially. And so he's breaking down how I was like, yeah, if you understand these different jobs that don't require a college degree, but the stability that they bring, the benefits that they bring, like, are you kidding me? Like, so let me continue.
So I look at it as that's a great hustle. They work for 20 years. At the end of 20 years, let's say they start at 21. At 41, they
listen. My uncle was a firefighter, and he always joked and said, "Look, being a firefighter was the best part-time job he ever had." It was kind of like a joke, and he did that for years, and is quite doing okay in his retirement, doing very, 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 very well. And that doesn't require like a high degree. You know what I mean?
The bus company, done being a police officer, done being MTA, and now they just making money on top of money. So it's value over values, right?
Evie, let me stop you right there.
It's not.
Do you think for 1 second, and I know you don't know me that well,
correct,
we've had enough conversation. I had you on Pro Black News. You talked to me about your father, who was a leader in law. Do you think for 1 second I'm about to push back on anything you just offered in that statement?
You can.
Right. So I cannot. And so what I'm telling you is, what you are applying now is not the facts as they were given to me. Ayala did not ask me, Eboni, would you date a bus driver that also had a real estate portfolio? Ayala did not ask me. Hold on now. Eboni, would you date a bus driver that also has a litany of franchises? Because you and your wife just bought 5, right? Six crystals? Crystal burgers. Okay. She didn't ask. That was not the framing of the question, Envy. Had that been the framing of the question, I would have said, Dr. Vons, where the fuck he at? So
the man you have to come with a resume and say all the properties that I own, or do you get to know that man and see what he's about?
See, that's semantics now.
Here's the thing. Y'all didn't listen to the whole Ayala interview.
Go ahead, Char.
Eboni actually agreed with Ayala. That's what's confusing me, because you actually agreed with Ayala when she talked about, you know, you should be open to dating a bus driver. You can build with a bus driver. You actually agreed with that. So that was confusing me.
You agreed with Ayala, then also conflated more and said a loving man, someone that loves what they does. There was a whole lot of other things. So she agreed that, of course, I want a loving man. I want a man that's passionate. I want a man with a plan. All the other things that came after the bus driver is what Eboni agreed to.
Yeah, so I say, why let the griot put out a clip that is more salacious and out of context when you actually did agree with Ayala?
Well, I'm not going to throw the griot under the bus. See what I did there? But what I am going to do, is say that we know the business that we are in. So you said something, Charlamagne, on the show yesterday. We're like,
so basically, up to this point, they're saying, because he went on to break down how, okay, people who didn't go degrees, here are the different jobs that don't require a college degree that you can actually do well off, and how these men sometimes will work this and then they'll take that money and invest and do real estate and do different things that can bring in money initially, right? So he's breaking that down. Her rebuttal is, Ayala, she didn't ask me that. She didn't say, okay, well, would you date a bus driver that also has a real estate portfolio? That also, she's like, she didn't ask me that. She just straight up said, would you date a bus driver? So that's kind of what they're going on in that.
We're entertainers, and we have to not over index for our. Yeah. Okay, so I want to be clear. My beloved, I'm actually not an entertainer. I'm not. I'm an educator. I'm an advocate. I happen to use the form of television, radio, and podcasting to do my work. See, we can't conflate platform with purpose. So why did the griot and the brilliant, talented team of journalists over there decide to use the bus driver clip, which is sensational and controversial? Because let's be honest, the griot is not getting the eyeballs the Breakfast Club is getting. Revolt Black News is not getting the eyeballs the Breakfast Club is getting, or The View is getting, or The Talk used to get. Because the nature of not just Black culture, of American culture, is entertainment first.
Yeah, she's basically, so she's saying, look, they put out a clip that they knew who was going to get us talking. And of course, if you're in the media, you're going to do that. That's not surprising.
So when you start doing the work of educating around where artificial intelligence is taking the culture, where you start doing the work about where criminal justice reform, how this summer, the U.S. Supreme Court, y'all, affirmative action, as we all know, that shit is going, know that. But no one is going to watch in the volume that we need to have the impact that I seek as a teacher in this world, Charlamagne, if we don't put out that clickbait. That's the reality.
So it was to bring attention to a larger conversation.
And guess what? What we know, because we all sitting here today talking about this shit a week later, is it worked.
It worked.
But then you came back and the next day people feel like you doubled down.
I don't feel like I did. Okay. I stood 10 toes down.
And but I don't think that was standing down, though. I think you completely took a different turn.
I agree.
Right. So again, she's saying clickbait, which again, mission accomplished. Of course, they're going to put out an aspect of the video that's salacious, that is going to get people talking, because that's how people are going to go and actually watch the video. Again, what I'm noticing is we're not really getting to the main issue right now, which is the fact that she completely condescended on men, but then saying that she did it as a way to try to promote Black causes and Black empowerment. I call cap. I think in a couple of minutes she's going to really get to the core of what I believe is what reveals her true intentions. But I do want you guys also to know the backstory of this is that she just so happened to have wrote a book called Bet on Black that dropped earlier this year. This is the backdrop. And the book just happens to be about Black empowerment, just happens to be about building Black enterprise, about empowering Black people, which if you notice, everything around empowering Black people up to this point has been what men need to do better. It's definitely coming from a feminist lens, because it is not also looking at the different areas where Black women themselves are disproportionately failing and not doing good. But she's going to get to that, I think, in a bit. Let's see.
That was tough.
I agree.
I actually thought it was tough to watch. And you know I love you, but
no, you know, I feel you, but that has nothing that got nothing to do with it. Tina told us that. So go ahead. I want to hear the
to me, 10 toes down would have been like, yeah, this is the choice that I'm making. This is my preference. This is the type of man I want. What I watched, were you talking about people as a whole? Right. And even white supremacy, bringing up, calling, saying average, to me, it felt like almost attack on the working class and the people that were in them comments more than it was the man you're looking for.
So let's address it, Weezy. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is the turn that I took. So at this point, who gives a fuck about who Eboni K Williams is dating? Let's throw that over to the side, because it's irrelevant.
That's your preference. I agree.
And right. Who gives a fuck, right?
Okay. Did y'all hear that? I don't know if y'all hear that part. She literally said, basically, who cares who I'm dating? I'm going to rewind that real quick, because I think that is a very, 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 very important aspect of this interview to me, that I think kind of ties this all together as to really the overall motive. But let me play this again.
Because we all sitting here today talking about this shit a week later, is it worked.
It worked.
But then you came back and the next day people feel like you doubled down.
I don't feel like I did. Okay. I stood 10 toes down.
And I don't think that was standing down, though. I think you completely took a different turn. That was tough.
I
actually thought it was tough to watch. And you know I love you, but
no, you know, but I feel you, but that has nothing that got nothing to do with it. Tina told us that. So go ahead. I want to hear the
to me, 10 toes down would have been like, yeah, this is the choice that I'm making. This is my preference. This is the type of man I want. What I watched, were you talking about people as a whole? Right. And even white supremacy, bringing up, calling, saying average, to me, it felt like almost attack on the working class and the people that were in them comments more than it was the man you're looking for.
So let's address it, Weezy. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is the turn that I took. So at this point, who gives a fuck about who Eboni K Williams is dating? Let's throw that over to the side, because it's irrelevant.
That's your preference. I agree.
And right. Who gives a fuck, right? So now let's talk about my real work in this world.
Okay. I wanted to replay that because I wanted to make sure y'all had it. Up to this point, she's been talking about Black empowerment, building the Black community. We literally, she says, get together. Black community is invincible when we get together. That's actually one of the little subtitles in her book, if you go on Amazon. So all this idea of let's get together, let's join, let's build, let's empower. And then it comes to the topic of her relationships. And she's like, who gives a F who I date? What does it matter? Who cares? If you believe in Black empowerment, who you date is essential to your overall goals. Who you marry is essential. If you believe in a Black community and empowering a Black community in generational wealth, then you actually have to have generations for the wealth to go to. And if you're not even procreating Black kids, then how are you going to sit here and talk about you believe in Black empowerment? This is why I think, to me, this is not really serious. Because we can talk about all this whole pro-Black, men aren't doing this, men aren't doing that, men aren't doing that. But then somehow when it comes to the topic of relationships and where Black women, modern women in general, and especially Black women are failing in relationships, our divorce rate, our low marriage rate, the different challenges that we have, single parent households. We want to talk about that and how not being in a family disproportionately affects women, especially when they have kids, how having kids outside of wedlock especially impacts their wealth and the community and the ability to get homes and to acquire assets. All of those things that are related to relationships, all of those things, which is a huge component of community building, foundational to community building. You have no community if you don't have families. Families make communities, multiple families. A collective of families is what defines a community. So when we get to the topic of the family, which is the foundation of the Black community that she alleges to want to build, it doesn't matter who I date. Let's just forget about that. Let's just overlook, broad stroke. Let's just completely overlook what that is about. The problem is, if you don't have a community, then there is no generational wealth. You don't have a Black family, then what are we even talking about? Like this is all, it's just smoke in the mirrors at this point. All this Black empowerment with generational wealth, we're doing it for our kids, we're doing all this difference that if you ain't having Black kids, what are you even talking about? So to me, this is why I think this whole thing was kind of bunk. This whole thing was bunk, because I'm like, you really about to sit here and tell me that this is all about some Black empowerment. You really believe in the well-being and the potential specifically of Black men. Notice she doesn't really go into Black men like that. Specifically of Black men. And why? Why does she believe in Black women? Because basically women who go to college need to have men on their level. That's really the whole premise of her argument. Men who go to college need to have women on their level. She believes in Black empowerment so much that she got engaged to a white man. And again, I'm saying, if you date or marry somebody outside of race, I'm not tripping, whatever, that's fine, do you. But also, you don't need to be leading the conversation. You got a white partner, you know what I mean? You don't need to be leading the conversation of building a Black family when you're not building a Black family yourself. This is why, to me, this entire thing is bunk. This entire thing, in my opinion, is about her promoting her book, Bet on Black, which she just happened to release earlier this year. Surprise, surprise. Not too long ago. And it's like, yes, she is definitely, in my opinion, trying to sell her book, because look at the actions. Do her actions show us that she truly cares not only in the empowerment of the Black community, but of Black men who she says she's advocating for? Does she care about them so much that she's not willing to date and marry one? Really? So that's why I when I listen to this whole thing, I'm like, the way she just skipped over that, as if that is not like a foundational issue to the Black community today, the issue that you do have a high rate of singleness. You do have a high rate of single parent households. And again, this system was not set up for there to be a whole bunch of singles and for there to be especially a whole bunch of single mothers. It wasn't set up for that. So already you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. She just kind of overlooked that. Just kind of overlooked who she's dating, who I go home with every single day, who I live with, who I build my community with. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's my preference. It doesn't matter. It's like, no, it absolutely does. Families make communities. If you have no family, you have no community. If you have no Black family, you have no Black community. So you can't be trying to pull this whole, I'm freaking Colin Muhammad, right? Like acting like you're some strong Black nationalist. You believe in the Black cause and the Black, the Black everything, pro Black, be Black, no code switch, all this kind of different stuff. Laid up there with your white, who, by the way, she broke up with because he decided to quarantine with his kids. This is not made up. This I talked about this yesterday. So that's why, to me, it's like, this is not serious. This is not a serious conversation. Listen, she has a book. To me, I'm like, it's obvious she's trying to sell the book. If a white millionaire came up knocking on her door tomorrow, she probably would be open to it. And then would probably justify it and be like, look, just because I'm not, this and that, I still do more than y'all dusties out here because I got more money and because I'm talking about it. Whatever. But to me, it was just like, this is not serious. This is not a woman, from what I can tell. And I don't know, she was on Real Housewives. You tell me if she was talking pro-Black on Real Housewives. I never really watched it like that. But did she have the same language? Did she have the same verbiage? Like, if she has consistently been talking this way over the last couple of decades, or she was even open about her evolvement to this point, then it's like, okay, maybe I could give you the benefit of the doubt. But it's like, you can't just like completely do a 180 and then think that people aren't going to notice that and then take you seriously. And then try to hold men accountable when you're pretty much the kind of woman that a lot of these guys are trying to get away from. Truthfully. And I say that based upon her comments, based upon the condescending comments, based upon the way that she addressed these men. It's like, these are actually you're the kind of woman a lot of these men are trying to grab their passports and get away from. So she's not necessarily in a position to hold these men accountable when they likely are not going to respect her. Because it's not necessarily just about the career. It's about how do you come off? How do you treat men? What is your track record with men? That's what these guys are listening to. So they're not, most men who are thinking about Black empowerment are not going to be going to a single woman, in her 40s who has a history of saying things or alluding to things that are misandrous or disrespectful. Men are not going to be going to a woman like that to try to get some advice. I hate to say it, but if the whole idea here was to empower Black men, you probably need to be working with Black men to do. That's going to be your best bet, is working with other Black men. And that's really, really, really what it's about. So now, this to me was like, we clearly see what this is about. It's about her book that she just happens to have dropped earlier this year. And this is why people don't really take the whole pro-Black. They don't really take it seriously a lot of the times, because it's just like, you got people who are grifting on it. And it does suck for those who actually are legitimate and they really do believe and want a healthier, better future for the Black community. And they are doing their best to try to live that out. So it does suck for those who are actually trying to be genuine. I'm not saying perfect, because nobody's perfect. That doesn't exist. But who are genuine about their desires and genuine about their behaviors on wanting to build and do things that are empowering long-term for the community. It does suck for those people because they look bad. But unfortunately, we see that sometimes it can just come off as a grift. And that's honestly what I think is going on right here.
The work God has called me to do, which is to always sit in a posture of elevating, advancing, and offering options to Black Americans for us to have a first-class existence. So when I talk about a permanent Black underclass, that's something that I talked about in the response video that Weezy citing. A lot of people felt away about that. What the fuck does she mean, a permanent Black underclass? What I mean is the data. So I sent Charlamagne a bar graph from the U.S. Census yesterday, and it listed about 15 different global identities. So again, you got to zoom out for this. This is not about Black folks and white folks in America. This is global. At the top of that, y'all, this is earnings. Indian Americans earn more than anybody else in America. At the very bottom, Black Americans. It's like they were earning about $100,000 per year per average, not a few, not half. 100% of their average is 100,000 plus. We were down here at around 28,000, 30,000. Okay, we're white people in the middle. They weren't up here. So that's why I have a personal problem with a lot of the culture saying that we should not have to be excellent. We talked about this, Charlamagne, yesterday on the phone. We should get to be basically as mediocre, as average.
I don't think anybody in their right mind response was, hey, no, we should be horrible. We want to see increase in homelessness. We want to see people not have good grades in school. We want to see Black men fail, and that's okay. I don't think anybody was saying that. From what I gather, that was not the pushback. The pushback was she kind of came off as condescending and basically condescending to a class of men. She's not even in the same class, so it's like, what does it matter? And she doubled down on that. That was the issue. The issue was what she said and how she said it, and the fact that she's not acknowledging that, like, hey, you do understand that that's kind of disrespectful, the assumptions that you made about people who were in those professions. And also the fact that as somebody who alleges to want to be pro-Black, who alleges to want to build the Black community, somehow completely overlooks the different areas where women who she's probably more closely tied to and can more easily impact, she overlooks that completely. That was the issue. That it didn't seem genuine, that she's deflecting, and that she's not actually addressing the things that she has the power to address. Men aren't going to her. Men are not going to be looking to her to be empowered. That's not a Black man who wants to learn about Black empowerment is not going to be going to a 40-plus-year-old single woman that has a history of failed relationships and also has a history of saying things that are misandrous. Black men are not looking to her to be empowered. And I'm not saying this as a shot against her. I'm just saying this is what they're going to be thinking. That's how they're going to be measuring her. They're not going to be looking at the fact that she has a career, the fact that she was at one time a beauty queen, the fact that she was in Real Housewives. They're not looking at that. They're looking at, okay, how have you ranked in these particular areas of being a feminine woman? How have you ranked there? And if you haven't ranked, if you don't have a track record of success there, you're not in a position to hold us accountable. So I'm like, again, Black men are not going to be going to buy her book to figure out how to be pro-Black. Like, are you kidding me? Nobody takes that seriously. Like, are you kidding? Are you kidding me? Nobody's taking that seriously. That's how we know it's a grift. Literally a grift. What's going on, Bella? Y'all go be sure to check out her page. She has some great content out there. I would like to see more women like her be going viral. Okay. Women out there who are lovely, have families, being a wife, being a mother, supporting her husband, being God-fearing. Like, she needs to be the one going around here having conversations. I would sooner listen to a Bella Rings try to hold Black men accountable. Not that she would do that, but I'm like, I would sooner listen to somebody like her who has proven results versus somebody who's trying to grift. So go be sure to check out her channel. She has great stuff over there. What's going on, Edward? Telling her that Edward cheated date out and she left the man. She left I talked about that earlier, where it's just like, nobody's taking it seriously because she's over here talking about Black empowerment, and she's so empowered that she couldn't even date or get engaged to a Black man. She's so empowered that she went out and got engaged to a white man that she later on walked off and left. Like, so we already know it's a grift. And then, as I said before, let's just assume everything she said was right. Let's just for 2 seconds assume everything that she says is right. That the black men are not doing this or not doing that. They're not doing that. Okay, this granted. Let's just assume that that's all. Everything she said about Black men is true. What about Black women? Why are we not talking about, again, the single parent households, how that negatively impacts us? The poverty rate, the obesity rate, right? The debt, lack of assets, income, like all the things, all the areas, rise in incarceration, homelessness, all the areas where actually Black women are failing and negatively impacts us. The low marriage rate. Why are we not talking about that? Because as I mentioned before, there is no community if there's not a family. We got to start. Step one is family. There is no community if there's not a family. And when the topic came to family, when the topic of conversation shifted to family, see how quick she was to deflect. See how quick she was to deflect and say, "Oh, well, look at all my career, look at all my activity," and it's like, that's how you know it's a grift. There is no community if there's not a family, and she believes in the Black community so much that she's not creating a Black family. Again, this is why people don't take it seriously, and this is why a lot of people, they look at the pro Black grift and they'll be like, "Y'all, this is a grift." And I hate to say it, it's not uncommon to see a lot of pro-Black women who lead with their nationalism, who lead with their, I'm FBA, or I'm ADOS, or I'm a pro-Black B1, or I'm a nationalist, or I'm a pan. It's not uncommon to see women who lead with that aggressively, to see those very same women have some mixed kids or had a white ex. It is not uncommon to see that. And this is why dudes look at it and be like, "You really think I'm supposed to sit here and take you seriously?" as inconsistent as you are. And that's how you know it's a grift. That's how you know it's a grift. Okay, let me continue.
As white Americans, for me, that's a no. I'm gonna tell you why. I travel the world. Y'all all travel the world. Y'all are global citizens, and we're blessed and privileged to do so. I got news for y'all. White mediocrity is depreciating fast. So I'm not gonna hold white mediocrity, white subpar, white averageness as a standard for the generation of Black children we're raising today.
Well, what does America do without the working class?
First of all, it's not about not having a working class. It's saying that why do Black people, I'm so glad you asked this, why do Black people disproportionately occupy it? Now,
well, again, you want to talk about it? We can start with women. We start with women, right? Having a kid out of wedlock disproportionately negatively impacts any possibility of gaining wealth. Let's start there. The overwhelming majority of kids who are born in the Black community are born out of wedlock. So if you want to talk about lack of wealth, how are we not doing well? How is it we're at the bottom? How many single parent households exist within the Black community today? As I mentioned before, this system was set up to prioritize families. It was not made to have a whole bunch of different single people running around, especially a whole bunch of different single mothers. And again, this is not shaming those that understand things happen. People find themselves in that situation, but that should not be the majority. So if you want to talk about generational wealth, one of the easiest, best ways to do that is actually through marriage and to not have kids outside of wedlock. Women who do that severely undermine any possibilities of attaining wealth. You want to look at women, the people who are actually most at risk for homelessness, it's single mothers, Black women in particular. Why aren't we talking about that? Why does it become, well, Black men aren't this, and that? Like I said, when Black men aren't even listening to you based upon your track record. Seriously, I'm just being honest. Like, they're going to look at her and be like, we're not even taking you seriously because look at your results. So it's going in one ear out the other. Nobody's listening to her. Maybe the only ones who potentially might listen to her would be women because she was a single, the Real Housewives or whatever. So women may actually listen to her. Why not actually talk to women? Why not actually address the things that are impacting them? Because again, as I mentioned before, there is no community without families, and we're not creating families. That is a huge problem. That is a huge problem.
You made a very good point yesterday, Charlamagne, talking about essential workers, okay? America found out, if we didn't know before, how essential our bus drivers, our MTA drivers, our home health nurses, our custodians, our grocery store workers were during fast food, all of it during COVID. And God knows we were ringing those pots and shouting them out, and God bless our essential workers. Nobody loves them more than your girl here. But you know what I don't love is that Black folks died at a 2-to-1 rate of during COVID, that Black folks were on ventilators more often during COVID. And part of the reason why that was the case, y'all, is because we over-index in the blue-collar working sector, in the essential jobs. And many of us don't have the option that we all had, which was to do our jobs virtually. So we are on the front lines in a way that disproportionately makes us vulnerable. We're dying because of it. That is my issue, not to disrespect these people.
I feel like you're changing the goalposts, right? What people were...
Yeah, no, she's definitely changed the goalposts. I don't necessarily disagree with any of those points. Yes, Black people, we know they have a negative history in the medical field. Absolutely. What does that have to do with her saying that she wouldn't date a bus driver? And then her doubling down and saying that people of that profession pretty much were seeing these two. Like, what does that have to do? What does the mortality rate in the hospital have to do with her conversation about relationships? So y'all see how it's like, we're like, the goalpost is here and then now we're over there. Oh, it's white supremacy. It's like, actually, no, we're just trying to talk about your dating preferences. Oh, well, it's the white man. It's the conspiracy. It's racism. As you sitting up, by the way, laid up next to a white man for 4 years that she was about to marry. Let's continue. What's going on, SB? Good to see you. Shout out to you with the 10. Also, I do want to acknowledge, I saw Edward in there. Good seeing you, Edward. Wait, where did that thing go? Says, I'm going to tell you he to go get a William Cartwright and leave my dusty behind. A lot of men are like, okay, bye. We don't want you anyways. I mentioned before, no Black man in his right mind is listening to her about being pro-Black. They're not listening to her to be held accountable. Nobody in their right mind is giving her any time of day because they're like, first of all, you are 40 and single and don't have any track record of a successful relationship. And you over here sitting here trying to tell us that we need to rise to the occasion. And you have a history of failed relationships and a history of misandry. Like, what are you even talking about? So again, this is what men are thinking. Men are not taking that seriously. The only chance of people that she might have to reach would be women. The only one who may honestly listen to her and take her seriously are women. Yet she is not actually addressing the issues that impact women. Imagine that.
Upset about was what you said, and everything that you said could absolutely positively be true. People were upset that they felt like that you were putting down the average person, quote unquote average job, and the person that was working the average job, that their what they do is not as good as what you do.
That's a projection, Envy. Envy, that's a projection.
I'll let you speak. Let me talk. So when you start talking about all this, and I read the comments just like you did, because I wanted to prepare myself when you came up here to understand what people were mad about and understand what people were upset about. So when you're talking about all this brother this and the black man this and the white supremacy this and this, that, and the other, that's all to the side of how you felt about that quote unquote average job, right? And I'll be honest with you, right? And one of the comments that I said, and maybe I'm not sure, right? The guy was like, you talk about all this about lifting the brother up and lifting this up and white supremacy and what you do for our people. And then the first thing the brother said was, but your fiance was white. And I'm sitting there like, how do you talk about how much you're uplifting and how much you're going for black people, but that's not necessarily what you're even looking for?
Well, first of all,
Paging Dr. Umar, damn.
Let's address it. And let's not skip a beat. So I would love to know how you, Envy, know what I'm looking for. We never had the conversation.
I'm telling you what people are saying on comments what I've read, and I'm talking for them. I'm not a bus driver.
Y'all, she was, well, we do know, again, for those of you who are kind of later to the stream, she was previously engaged to a white CFO. So that, again, that's the backdrop. The last relationship, from my understanding, that she was public with, because they broke up, I think, 2019, around that time. They have articles published on this. I reviewed this in my live yesterday. Who she was last with for 4 years was a white man, CFO. So he's over here talking about preferences. He's like, you know my preferences. Like, you literally were on the Real Housewives with a white man for 4 years. So I think we pretty much have a pretty solid idea of what you're looking for. Like, let's not gaslight. Like, let's not forget that you were on the Real Housewives for a couple of seasons. People had the chance to look at you. She was preparing for marriage. So him making assumptions about her preference is not unreasonable, given her history on the Real Housewives, right? Given her history with her high-profile relationship with a white man, that's not unreasonable for him to make those conclusions. Okay, let me continue.
I'm speaking for the average person out there, because I feel for them, because the bus drivers and the average person are what keeps these lights on here on the Breakfast Club. Right. They keep me booking shows.
Nobody is saying, first of all, this is not about you booking shows.
This is about how I feel. So when you shit on the people that
first of all, Envy, you're dead ass wrong for framing it as me shitting on them.
You don't think I'm shitting on them?
I know it. First of all, I know it wasn't. I think what you're saying right now is irresponsible. I think what you're saying is irresponsible.
Envy,
I think what you are framing right now in this moment is highly irresponsible. Because if you listen, I'm going to tell you. Because if you were to listen to all of the full Yana interview, the full sidebar, the full episode of Holding Court, nowhere in any of that commentary did I say a cross or negative word about the working class of Black America, of America broadly, or Black men.
She definitely said, y'all are the same C's and D students. She literally, y'all remember that when she doubled down, was like, I said what I said. She was like, y'all is the same C and D students who basically didn't do good enough, but your parents coddled you. And then she said, the bigotry, we are comfortable with the bigotry of low expectations, something to that matter. And this is where it's just like, okay, be real. You're a smart woman. You know, right, how to probably be very passive aggressive disrespect. I don't even know if it was passive aggressive, but I'm like, yeah, she didn't necessarily say blue collar workers, they're all horrible people, but she alluded to it in very explicit ways. So it's like, why are we even arguing this point? This is not the hill to die on, or whether or not you were being disrespectful to blue collar people, when you literally said, y'all the C and D F students who have the symptoms of what the bigotry of low expectation. She uses the low expectation below average. Is that something? Is that how you pep talk people? Is that how you show them that you value them, that you are below average? That you have low expectations. That's really you empowering them. Like, really, this is not. How are you dying on this hill?
I'm going to get to the why was my fiance. Envy, let me finish this statement.
Do you know what
I'm
people
going
feel?
to get to.
Just because you didn't mean to hurt somebody, just because you didn't mean to affect somebody doesn't mean you didn't hurt a community.
I don't
can say
deal
anything
in
about somebody and
feelings.
be like, I didn't mean to hurt you. But if you hurt people, you hurt people. If people feel a way about you, they feel a way about you because those people that you talked about are the people that buy your books, that listen to this show, and they're hurt.
Ebony, what about words like average, mediocrity, typical, and the bigotry of low expectations? I think those are the words that hurt the working class.
You can sit here and say, no, I didn't hurt nobody. You hurt people out there that buy your books and follow you and support you.
You asked me to be quiet. Y'all, please. Y'all asked me to be quiet. I listened to your full statement. I understand you have a feeling about it.
22 minutes, and I spoke for 6 seconds.
She is here to talk to us. We got ours off already. Let Ebony talk.
I'm just returning what she said.
Go ahead,
Don't act like I didn't let her speak. She spoke for 22
Absolutely.
minutes.
Go ahead, let her talk. Don't do that. Let her go. Go ahead.
So, Envy, this is where we're different. My primary focus and goal when I do what I do in the world is not to protect feelings. I'm going to be candid with you. I understand it's clear from the energy that there is an emotional attack that you felt was on Black men, the working class, and Black America. I'm going to hold the space for the hurt feelings around that. But more than I care about hurt feelings, I care about providing my people with facts and information that say that the current way of life for the majority of Black Americans is not serving us.
I don't think anybody denies that. I don't think anybody denies that. Again, the issue is she's moving the goalpost because she got a book called Bet on Black. Now she's trying to make a statement, some statements that she made about blue collar men that were arguably disparaging. Now she's trying to make it about Black empowerment when she was laid up there with a white man. Like I said, nobody takes that seriously. Like moving the goalpost here because the context of the conversation with Ayanna Benzett, it wasn't how can we help empower Black people? What are the different things? That wasn't it. And even if it was, then why aren't you talking about where the women are disproportionately failing? Why aren't we talking about the things that women can do? Because truth be told, you're going to be probably better off trying to hold women accountable than men because men aren't listening to you. You're just not. A woman who has a history of failed relationships laid up with a white man, men aren't listening to you. So the best option you have is talking to Black women who will respect a Black woman who is able to actually get a white man. And then maybe will like the fact that you have some form of prestige and we're on the Real Housewives. That is the best option you have of reaching anybody if you want to talk about being pro-Black. Why aren't you talking to them? Seriously.
I'm going off of the data and the facts. I am not okay. And I don't think it's okay that the vast majority of Black Americans, again, overpopulate, disproportionately occupy spaces that are not ideal, that make us vulnerable. I talked about the COVID, that make us vulnerable to death, disease, maternal health, all the things that y'all all talk about on this show every day. Now, if y'all are okay with the current positioning of Black America, that we are the lowest income, the lowest home ownership, the lowest educated group, then so be it. And let's just stop talking now and keep on going about our business.
She's making it about something that it was not. She ain't Khalid Muhammad. She ain't Malcolm X. She ain't even Dr. Umar. I know he's controversial. She ain't him. She ain't even in those spaces. So how all of a sudden you're about building the Black community now when the context of the conversation was literally dating preferences, not to mention that you related with a white man. Like I said, you can't get beyond that. You can't get beyond you care about the Black family so much that you don't believe in creating one. You cannot get around that. And that's why, to me, when the section of that interview got to the point where it came to family and it came to relationships, and she skipped over that, she just brushed over that, that's when I knew it was a grift. Because like I said, there is no Black community without Black families. That's step one. And we already know Black women are negatively impacted, and then that they are failing disproportionately when it comes to the family sector. When we look at the marriage rate and when we look at the single parent households, we already know there are a lot of issues there. So the fact that she would completely overlook some components that are foundational to trying to build Black community is just like, this is not a serious conversation. This is not serious at this point because you're not even willing to deal with step one. You over here on step 16 and we ain't even got to step one and you won't even answer that. Okay.
Ivy, I'm not okay with it. So that is why I said what I said about addressing the bigotry of low expectations. It's the bigotry of low expectations is the reason why I have to submit that Black men are now going to HBCUs and college and generally at half the rate of Black girls and women. I don't think that's okay.
Shouldn't we address the system that put us in these positions?
We are addressing the system, but first we have to name it, Charlamagne. See, that's where people's feelings are getting hurt, is the fact that I am naming it.
No, feelings are getting hurt at her elitist remarks. That how did her saying, I don't date a bus driver, how did that come about the HBCU and how many Black men are going to HBCU? How did we just moved way past the initial conversation to now we're talking about incarceration rate, we're talking about white supremacy, racism, while meanwhile she was married to, or about to be married to a white man, but racism and being pro-Black and never code switching and being better together. It's like, ma'am, like we can't pin you on a point. Can you stay connected to this point? And can you acknowledge the fact that what you said at best was ignorant? At best it was ignorant. At worst, it was completely demeaning and classist. But no, and it's white supremacy. It's like, what? Like, and again, you over here was laid up next to a white man for 4 years talking about Black unity. And I'm saying, did you have this revelation about Black unity before you got engaged to a white man or after? At what point? At what point? And again, I'm not saying this is no shade to anybody who's in an interracial relationship. I don't really care. I'm just saying, if that's what you're doing, you don't really need to be leading the conversation about Black unity, about building a Black community. You don't need to be doing that. If you are even committed to creating Black kids, I don't need to be looking to you as the standard. That's what I'm saying. And it doesn't mean that you can't work for the cause even and maybe try to collaborate or try to contribute. No, because you can do that and be, in a racial relationship. But I don't need to be looking to you as a standard. And she's creating herself as a standard, but hasn't even shown through her life that she has a family, which is a foundation of a community. That's what I'm saying.
I am saying that it is not okay to bring C's and D's to your home and then expect to go on to higher education and acquire a higher skill set. And when you say that, that is hurtful to people, Envy. I'm acknowledging the pain. But somebody has got to start telling the truth to our people. And some of y'all wonder why you get the political representation y'all get, because some folks would rather hear things that make them feel good than understand and hear the things that are the truth. So let's talk about average, mediocre, and typical, because a lot of people felt a way about it. Well, I looked it up. I did the service of pulling it up out of Merriam-Webster. So this is not Eboni shitting on anybody, Envy. This is simply to say when you do something average, by definition, it is of typical value. It is normal and it is standard. When you are regular, normal, acceptable. When you are mediocre, that would have people real hot. It means ordinary, medium, commonplace, and moderate.
And bigotry, don't forget the bigotry of low expectations.
I'm going to get to that. That's an academic study. Okay. So those of you that think that's George W. Bush, go do your reading. But let's talk about those words, Charlamagne. Nothing in there says you ain't shit. Nothing in there says it's bad or low or beneath.
They've applied the negative connotation.
That's a projection, and I'm not going to stand for it, because you need to be honest with the actual semantics in which we're talking about. So when you say regular, hardworking, everyday people, Charlamagne, that is rhetorically not any different than me saying average, mediocre work.
I disagree, because those words can be weaponized. Just like the word basic has been weaponized.
Yeah,
I can call y'all basic. I can call y'all basic D's.
But that's what I'm saying. But there's a negative connotation.
You call me mediocre, I'm out the room.
But also,
see, I made a whole song called I don't want no mediocre.
But also, we've done that with the N-word. We've done it with the word whore. There's negative connotations to a lot of words, and if someone calls it to you,
really, to me, this sounds like a whole bunch of different semantics. I want you guys to remember that she's a practicing attorney, but I know she has a law background, right? She's a lawyer. So needless to say, she is probably comfortable at arguing a point, comfortable at doing that. She's raising up points to me that have nothing to do with the original backlash, which is that you literally went online and you condescended an entire class of men while pretending to empower them when they, quite frankly, didn't really ask for you to hold them accountable. There was not like a petition to say, oh, we need Eboni K. We need her insight. We need her validation. We need her wisdom on how we as Black men can do better. Nobody asked for that. So that was the issue. But now she's making it about white supremacy. And we're like, can we first deal with the fact that we don't even need here to get along? debunk white supremacy. That's what some people are thinking. And again, I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. It obviously does. And it definitely has its issues. And there are a time and a place to talk about it. And there's a time and a place to address it. Not wasting time. You going online and saying things that are misandrous, that's not, you don't need to blame that on the white man. Like, you just said something disrespectful. Can you own that? And that's what I'm saying. It's like the goalpost was here, but now it's over there. And we're like, can we go back to the original? And then now it's semantics. Well, technically I said this, but y'all said that, and you're trying to, and it's like, no, can we stay on the point? Can you deal with the fact that you made negative assumptions about blue collar men? And instead of saying, hey, you know what, maybe I said that wrong, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Now you're doubling down and be like, by the way, buy my book, because black men aren't doing enough. And it's like, ain't nobody in their right mind taking none of that stuff seriously.
Get that, but
we reclaim the word. You were talking about something totally different.
But what I'm saying is,
nobody is reclaiming average and mediocre.
Even when she brought up C's and D's in school, academically, a C says you're average.
That's exactly what it means.
I don't know why that's a problem being average.
Because people
mandate accepting C's.
I'm going to tell you.
I don't think essential workers are average. I don't think essential workers are average.
Let me finish this statement.
I don't think Uber drivers, bus drivers, I don't think any of those people are average.
I'm not saying that the people are average. So let's slow it down.
I don't think the job is average.
The job is average.
I don't think
the job is average by definition. It says that most people can do it per the skill set. It also speaks to the income it commands. It speaks to scarcity and demand.
So that's what we're talking about. That are holding college degrees that have to drive Uber right now because
they're doing mediocre work. So Weezy, let me be very clear as to what I'm not saying. No, y'all got to listen to this. I am not saying that a piece of paper makes you a more valuable individual. I didn't say that. I don't believe that. I prove it to you. I let a lawyer go because when I was ready to go, where I was trying to go and vacation with him, sir, your particular way of practicing law did not allow provision and protection.
But I think what's the real question is, if C's and D's aren't good enough, and you're saying that a higher education, what I'm saying is you're saying a higher education also doesn't mean that, then what do they have to do to be excellent? Because I'm someone who did have C's, B's, A's. I own 3 businesses. I'm sitting here with all y'all, and shit, we all make 7 figures. Maybe I'm on the lower end of this as a mediocre person. It's like,
you don't know what I make. I don't make that kind of money.
Why are you lying?
He probably makes 8.
Listen, you can't tell about
But Weezy, did you hear about a story about my mother? Weezy, she doesn't have a college degree. My grandfather didn't, but she never did it.
I did hear about
she did. Right, so she's not mediocre. Not because, but when she drove that bus, she was doing mediocre work.
Y'all, she's just trying to sell her book. To me, it's just pretty clear. For those of you who missed it, let me just stop real quick. It just so happened right around the time that she did this whole thing. All of this talk, all this conversation just happens to be around the time that she released a book called Bet on Black, the good news about being Black in America today. Let's look at some of the key components of Bet on Black. She breaks it down here. Don't let anyone make you their Black sidekick. Carry your Blackness proudly everywhere you go. Subvert stereotypes and do you. Disrupt oppressive power structures. No need to code switch. Show up as you beautifully are. Get together. Black community is invincible when we get together. It just so happens that all of this is happening right around the time she's talking about buying a book. Bet on Black. And as I mentioned before, she believes that the Black community is invincible. The Black community is literally invincible when they get together. And she believes in that so much that she was engaged to a white man. She believes that the Black community is so invincible that she was engaged to a white man. So y'all see what's going on here? Y'all see why a lot of people don't take the pro Black thing even seriously? And I hate saying that because it's like it undermines those who actually are legitimate, who actually are about trying to do the work. But to me, this is not an example of somebody who's being legitimate. Because it's like, did you have this revelation before or after you was engaged with a white man? Before or after? Talking about white supremacy, talking about, being you, we're better together. Before or after? And I would be more willing to take her seriously if she was not so quick to overstep and just completely brush over that relationship. She just completely just brushed over that. She just, not important. If she was willing to talk about that point and say, you know what, I have since now evolved to this revelation and here's why. If she was able to maybe talk about that progression, then maybe I could take her seriously. But she's not. It's just men aren't doing good enough. Let's just overlook my past. Let's just completely overlook the issues that women are doing. Buy my book. Again, nobody's taking that seriously in their right mind. Nobody at all. Nobody at all. So let me, okay, guys, I think we're almost done. I think we are almost done here. Okay, you guys, you know what? Bear with me, guys. I need to take a quick, guys, I need to take a quick little break, a little quick 3-minute break. I just had something come up. So I'm gonna go on this break real quick, and then we are going to resume video, okay? Hey, everybody. Sorry about that. I had to handle something real quick. Shout out to Crimson Cure. It's so good to see you. It is always an honor and a pleasure to have you in the building. It's so good to see you. I have your book. I'm literally in the middle of like 4 books right now, but yours is like next on my list. I can't wait to read it and review it. So yeah, you guys, if you haven't got our book already, definitely do so. I'm really, really, really excited to like power through it. Okay, so we are going to, I'm almost done. I think we are like a little bit more than halfway through. For those of you guys who are kind of joining just now, like, share, subscribe, and we're gonna get past this. We're almost towards the end. I want to get to the end just to make sure I haven't missed anything important. But really, what I'm catching on up to this point again is there's a whole lot of grifting going on. I mean, that's just really what it comes down to. A woman that cares about the Black community so much that she wasn't willing or dedicated to actually trying to create a Black family. As I mentioned before, the Black community is actually made up of Black families. And again, as I said, if she was open about that, and if she was like, look, I've come to this revelation, I've evolved on this point, and if she was more candid about her rather public relationship with the white man, okay, how that broke down, and the relationship issues that are negatively impacting Black women and also economically impacting them. Like, if she was honest about that, then I I might actually take her seriously. But she's over here trying to wag her finger at black men, and black men aren't taking her seriously. I mean, she's literally the kind of black woman that men are trying to go away from. Not because she's not beautiful, and they don't, it's not the career thing. It's because she's coming off as classist and she's coming off as hard to deal with, and she's not even being accountable to the fact that you said some stuff that was disrespectful to people. She's blaming it on white supremacy, and then she's talking about some college rapes, and then she's saying, well, then these bus drivers are beating their wives, and just alluding to all this different stuff. And it's like, can we just stick on the aspects of relationships for just about 2 seconds? Because without relationships, without families, there is no community. And as soon as it got to that point, then she had to move the goalpost. She had to say, it don't matter who I dated. It don't matter. When she literally was on Real Housewives, she was laid up with her white man for 4 years, a very public relationship. So I ask, did you have this revelation about Black unity being better together? Was that before or after you with the white man? Were you talking about white supremacy the whole time he was laid up right next to him? The whole time? Or was it after? And this is why I'm like, when people want to talk about these things, when people talk about pro Black space, they don't really take it seriously, because it's like, it seems like there's a lot of grifting. And again, I'm not hating on you. If you are in a relationship with a person with other race, that's fine. I don't care. I'm just saying, if that is your history, you don't need to be holding yourself up as the standard for Black empowerment, for the Black community. Because at that point, you're not even creating a Black family, which make up communities. I'm not saying you can't contribute. I'm not saying you can't work, support, fine. But I'm like, if you are not even in a Black relationship, you don't need to be the standard. You don't need to be one leading the charge. That's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of the stuff we know is a grift. We know it's a grift because not only based upon the activity, the current positions. Is she being accountable now? Is she being open? Is she being at least honest about her very public relationships? Is she addressing the relationship issues that Black women obviously have? The things that are obviously impacting our wealth, the things that are obviously undermining our well-being. Is she addressing that? No, she's finger wagging at Black men who aren't even interested in listening to her, who aren't taking her seriously. So this is where we're at up to this point. We got a few more minutes and then keep it moving.
Surpass it then for you.
You have to do something, not for me,
but by your standards. Because if Charlamagne is saying it's not mediocre or average, and the people listening feel like they're not, by your
I just want people to stand on it. I want people to stand on it. If you are a person, and we're talking about Black America, and you feel as if you have maxed out your skill set, whether it's in the classroom or when you wake up in the morning and do whatever it is that you do, then God bless you, and I support and love you. I am talking to Black people that I know have a potential skill set that is untapped. So that's the difference between mediocre and exceptional. Not the piece of paper, not even the income. It's, are you complicit and complacent in what you are doing currently? Or are you willing to go above and beyond and do the thing that most people won't do? By definition, Weezy, that's where exception lies.
Could be so, okay, let's just assume what she's saying is true, right? That she is about trying to help empower and speak into the potential of Black people, Black men specifically, because this is who she really calls to the table. I'm like, okay, who are you partnering with? Are you in any organizations? Are you actually partnering with Black men to speak to other Black men? Because best believe Black men are not signing up to listen to her. They're not going to be buying her book trying to learn how to be more pro-Black. That's not what's happening. So it's like, unless you're actually actively engaged in other organizations and other communities, partnering with other Black men who have a voice, who have respect within the community, who have a proven track record, outside of that, it's just rhetoric. It's just a lot of, word salad. Nobody's really taking it seriously. Because I'm like, all this bet on Black, which, by the way, is the book that she just happened to have released earlier this year. These are some ideas we've all heard around before, but now when it comes down to the action, when it comes down to the track record, when it comes down to the accountability, does any of that exist? Okay.
The nurse that drives Uber on the side. I think that's why
my father was a military. He was a mechanic. He was a bus driver. He was a police officer.
So he was exceptional. Your father was exceptional.
My mother worked at Guardian Life Insurance. I'm the first person in my family to go to college, first person to graduate from college, and my parents put me through college. So I don't look at them as mediocre. I don't look at them as average. They are exceptional, and they did what they did to get their kids through all this stuff.
What you said is so different than what I'm talking about.
I am the same with them, and I am the same.
That is just not intellectually honest.
And the difference is what you said is, oh, you want to encourage and you want to do this. I do the same thing without putting people down.
She wants people to buy her book. That's what she wants to do. She wants people to buy. Let's just keep it a buck. She wants people to buy her book, and instead of saying, okay, you know what I said about bus drivers and what I alluded to regarding Black men and blue-collar Black men, that was offensive. I didn't mean it. Instead of her just being, I'm sorry. You know what? I'm sorry that I offended y'all. Instead of just owning it, now she has to not only double down, but then now try to promote her book. And I'm like, this is not helping. Maybe a few Black women might buy it. Maybe people will buy it just to hate read. I don't know. But I'm like, as far as, now I'm going to look at you. Like, what was she expecting? Black men to be like, oh, yeah, you're right. Let me now buy your book and take notes from a single Black woman with no family, with no community on how to build a community. Like, men aren't logically, because men are logical, right? And they're looking at her life. They're looking at it, not the words. They're looking at her life. They don't care about bunk the career, like bunk the Real Housewives, bunk that. Like, no, they're looking at how have you actually built your own community. If you haven't built your own community, I'm not buying a book from you on how I can build my own. That's what they're thinking. So, like I said, it's not being taken seriously.
I'm not putting people down. I'm being very honest.
I think you are, and people have been saying, I don't think you're listening. Like, as much as you talk, you're not listening to what people are saying.
Listening. I'm not bothered by that, though. I'm not going to be shamed.
And they have opinions. Just like you have your opinion, you can't talk over people and not let people talk.
But you also interrupting me, Envy.
I'm not. I was talking. You keep talking to me. I let you speak, and then I just started talking.
Okay, you got it.
I just started talking. I let you speak, and I waited for you to be quiet, and I started talking. You heard something that you didn't like, and you cut me off.
That's how it just went. Because once you start being intellectually dishonest,
here we go. Now it's not Envy. Go ahead.
No,
that's exactly what happened.
Let's keep it.
No, but if I give somebody the platform to speak, and I let you speak, then I speak, and you have to listen, just like I listen. Just like with Weezy and Mandy, when they speak, I listen. It doesn't matter that we don't agree or disagree. We can have a conversation, but we got to respect each other in this conversation.
I agree.
I think that
part of that respect is being honest.
Yeah.
So now this is just my personal opinion. When you're on a panel with people, I do think it's disrespectful to be talking over them and to be cutting them off. And especially if you're a woman, that looks really masculine. It does. It looks really masculine if you consistently cut off somebody and try to correct them and try to get them. Like, that looks very, 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 very masculine. So it's like, even if you were rocking with everything else that she said, even if you bought into all of her points, just the way that she's behaving herself around some of the other men and the way she's interacting with their critiques can come off as super masculine, can come off as very like, oh, I don't know if I want to listen to you. This is my opinion. Okay.
I think the conversation is healthy. If you listen to the whole Ayanla interview, I get a better sense of what you're trying to say. But the doubling down is what threw me completely off.
What threw you off about it?
It did sound like you was shitting on the working class.
I'm not shitting on the working class.
And if you weren't, I think you need to make that very clear.
Well, I've tried to make it clear with 3 different examples. I think y'all don't want to hear it.
No, she's it's giving combative. It's getting, I'm right, you're wrong. Because sometimes it's just, why can't it just be like, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I came off wrong. I didn't mean that. I'm sorry if I offended you. I could understand how that was offensive. I could understand how that was really demeaning. I'm so sorry. Why? And just end it. And then just end it. End it. Done. Like, why can't it just be that? You know what I mean? But she's like, I said what I said. She literally said that in her other videos. And earlier, she's like, I said what I said. But then she's like, well, I already said that I'm sorry. But it's like, no, you double down on your point. So that's why it's like, not that kind of apology. Nobody's really taking seriously, not to mention the amount of goalposts that have been moved and added and subtracted and changed and swapped around. Shout out to you. I do want to acknowledge some of the super chats. Shout out to you, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. The need to be right is strong with her. It is, yeah, it's definitely giving like, I need to be right at this point. And I'm like, why not just say, I'm sorry. That was elitist of me. That was disrespectful. I'm very sorry. I did not intend to offend you. Like, why not just say that? Nobody does it right 100% of the time. I don't expect people to be perfect. So, but like, why not just own when you made a mistake? Marriage, politics, sports. It says there was one question that caused a firestorm. No wonder the table question is unanswerable. She better buy stock in PetSmart because she will be buying a lot of cat food. Y'all are petty. Y'all are so petty. Byra Hammer TV 499. It says, Shay, I'm glad to see you're dismantling all the BS from Miss Williams. She moved the goalpost so many times that she'll strain her back. A bitter woman. There are a lot of goalposts that have been, like I said, moved, added, subtract, all of the above. Marriage, politics, and sports with the 5 says she even made the super simp DJ Envy turn into a man. I almost forgot his wife month-long girls trip. Dang, I know some of y'all in there just like, look, if DJ Envy's even mad, y'all know she didn't. Y'all know she went too far. Shout out to you, Mr. Creed, with the 10. Thank all of you guys for the super chats. Appreciate you guys. I wanted to make sure. Will Quill with the 2. It says her ex don't own the financing firm he works for. Right. That part. Freedman's Journal with the 5 says leftover women are the most bitter. She knows she's aged out eggs zestier than King Tut's. Y'all in these comments. Thank you for the 5. I appreciate it. Y'all in these comments. You said, Shay, you missed. I said what I said. Yeah, like that's like a meme at this point. Okay, I'm almost done here.
And that's okay, Envy. It's okay. It's like you said, it's okay to disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we can argue semantics back, because that's really, at this point, this is an argument around semantics. This is not around intention. This is not around feelings. Because we talked about the data. We've gone to the dictionary to define the words.
She talked about, and again, it was very much from a feminist lens, from my estimation, because the focus really, she interchanges Black community and then Black men. And then when she brings a Black woman, she's speaking from an elitist point of view. She went on earlier. She said, oh, these Black women are going to college. Where are the men who are going to be on their level? And again, what is that underscoring? The hypergamous nature of women. Because basically the underlying issue is there's not men currently on her level today that are willing to be with her. That's kind of what I am gathering from this. And she also alluded to this in her conversation with Ayanna Benzet. And then she follows up to say on the interview that she did in the Breakfast Club, these women are going to college. Men are not going to college as much. How are they going to be equally yoked? So again, that speaks to this underlying issue that's been going on for a long time. Not only in the Black community, it's impacting other communities. The hypergamous nature of women dictates that they want men on or above their level socially. It's not even just about money, because there's blue collar men out there who make more money than these college educated women minus the debt. But what is going on here is that it's the social status. It's not just the money. It's the women want the social status. They want the bragging rights. They want to be able to go to the brunch, girls' brunch, and brag about their husband doing this, or brag about, and then compare. That's what they want to do. They want to be able to go to the parties and kind of floss and flex and say, my man, that's what they want. It's the social, it's the bragging rights, it's the class, it's the prestige. She even talked about a first-class life. She believes Black people should have a first-class life. And so this is what is going on here. It's masking it under this whole Black empowerment, this, and that, but she's not dealing with the issues where Black women are disempowered based upon some of the horrible decisions that we're making as a group. And she's making it all about men. The fact that they're not getting the college degrees, the fact that they're not getting as much. And why is that important? Because these women want the class. They still want to be hypergamous while still competing against these men. And the two things can't be true at once. You can't put yourself in a position where you want to be equal to men and you fought for rights for that. And now you can go to college. Now you can invest. Now you can't do that, but then now be upset when the men that you're competing against are no longer there, or they're no longer as plentiful. And so I think really at the root of this is the discontent that a lot of successful Black women have when they find themselves in positions when Black men in their class and their ranking, their level financially, they're not there. They're not there. And if they are there, they're already married or they're married out. This is the discontent. Because initially in the interview, she spoke about that. She spoke about the Black woman going to college and then not being able to find the Black men in college, not being able to, she spoke about that. But what she didn't underscore was that is not the experience of most Black women. Most Black women still aren't going to college like that and completing college and going on to make 6-7 figures and own homes. That is an elite. Most Black women today are living average lives, working at the grocery store, UPS, post office, right? Maybe they themselves are truck drivers. Office work, maybe. Administrative assistant, and that's bad. I mean, that's probably being a little bit more generous, but making good average job. That's what most Black women are doing. So she's making this an issue. She's making her experience the issue of the everyday Black woman when it's not. Her experience as an elite Black woman is very unique. Her not finding enough elite Black men in her level that she wants to make, that would want to marry her at this space. But most Black women, that's not their situation. Most Black women, a blue-collar man would be actually leveling up for them. So I don't know. There's a lot going on here. Okay.
Now it is, I heard what you said, but this is how it made me feel.
So what is Eboni K Williams trying to say?
People think learning piano takes a really long time, but that's false. Here's how long it really takes with this new method.
I am saying plainly, Charlamagne, that I believe in maximizing skill sets for Black Americans. I believe in ownership, entrepreneurship, and multiple streams of income as a way tethered to our liberation as Black people who were brought here in chattel some 16, 19 year. And if that makes you feel a way, maybe it's time to do something about it. That's all. And many people are. So when Envy talks about this example of his father being in law enforcement and being a business owner and doing 3-4 things on top of that, that is nowhere near mediocrity. That is called exceptionalism. That is called a Black man availing himself to his highest calling and skill set. He talks about his mother and what she.
So you see how it's all about what Black men are not doing. That's really what they're not doing. Again, she's a successful Black woman, and she's probably upset that she is not around a lot of successful Black men who are still single, available, and wanting to marry her. I think that is at the crux of what's going on. And this is an issue that successful Black women who are deep into 30s, early 40s, maybe even 50s, they run into. It is a unique issue. But I'm like, instead of addressing that and talking about, okay, well, why is this happening? Why are the men on your level not marrying you? Is it because they're not available? Is it because they don't see you as a viable option? What was going on the previous decades? Why couldn't you settle down then? By the way, you were engaged to a man. You knew him for 4 years. Why couldn't you settle down? So it's like, instead of getting to the root cause here, which I really think is these women are upset that there's not men on their level to ride with them who will date and marry them late into their 30s, early into their 40s and on. Instead of talking about that, now it has to be about Black empowerment. Now Black women need to do this, and that, which I don't disagree. There's things that the Black community can improve upon, but the first has to be a Black family in order for there to be a community. And why hasn't there been a focus on a family? Because the family will actually help address some of these deeper issues that she's bringing up. But we're not talking about it. It's word salad.
He did. That is not mediocrity. By the way, there's nothing wrong with mediocrity. By definition, it's not bad nor good. It's mediocre. It is typical and it is regular. But if you are looking for me, if anybody is looking for me to put out a permission slip for people that look like me and come from where I come from, which is the diaspora, around
she's using
average is good enough.
She's
medium is
funny because she's really using all this like liberation language. All this like she's diaspora, like she's using all of this like deep Black liberation language. And I'm just like, okay, did you come to this revelation before your white fiance or after you ended it with your white fiance? At what point did you pivot to believing in Black liberation? Was this a more recent phenomenon after you wrote your book? What got you to this point? Because like I said, the optics of it just look like a grift, truthfully.
Okay, just do enough to get by? No, I'm not going to make that soft place for you to land.
Well, to Weezy's question, what is exceptional then?
It's very simple. Y'all keep acting like it's hard. Anything that goes above your minimum skill set. That's it. Whatever that is for you, that might be driving the Uber. Like I said, when my mother was driving the Charlotte-Mecklenburg school bus and working for UPS at night and putting herself through beauty school, all in a means to advance her skill set, so she could go do finger waves for 7 hours. And then when she realized, okay, I have a skill set on top of that, shout out to finger waves. Okay. I don't want to stand on my feet doing finger waves 7 hours a day. I can do something different than that. She opened a childcare facility. Then she opened another one, and then she bought tractor trailers, and then she had a fleet of trucks.
Did it bother you then when people brought up salary and money because you had a different point?
Yes, and that's
but
why
you
I said
did
in the
that in the Ayanla interview, though. You brought up salary. When you set the conversation, you talked about how women are making more money than men,
and ownership,
how they're buying houses more than men.
And that's ownership.
So you set that table.
Yeah, but even what she's saying too in terms of salary, she's saying multiple streams of income at the same time. Yeah. Which is why, okay, he's a bus driver. Your father did multiple things and owned properties.
No, he didn't do multiple things. He was a mechanic.
Yeah, I think there's a whole lot of circular conversation here. A whole lot of circular conversation here. I'm trying to see if she makes any other points.
He did one thing at one time. He just worked overtime to make sure it was good. He didn't own no properties or nothing. My property he didn't invest. He doesn't know anything about the stock market. I'm the first person in my family to invest in anything.
Okay.
Correct. He doesn't know anything about it. But I would also say that a lot of people in our communities don't have the opportunities that a lot of people do.
And I don't think you're speaking enough to the disadvantages.
They don't have the advantages. They don't have the ability to get jobs. They don't have those abilities. They don't have those abilities that a lot of my white neighbors now have.
Which, to be fair, I went to, shout out to Evans High School in Orlando, Florida, 98% Black, especially when I graduated in 2009. We had trades. So like literally it was...
I'm not even gonna play this.
You just talking to me now. You just talking.
But let's let Ebony say her last words and get whatever she has to get out without interrupting, because we have to cut this up. No, we have to cut it up because it goes on.
No, understand. I will say this to Envy's point of our people not knowing. I agree with you, which is why I'm so incensed and I'm so committed to having this conversation right now. You single family homeowners, if you need a tree cut from your yard, that truck that's gonna cut it down is not cranking for less than $5,000.
Right.
So we have to talk about those things. And so y'all can get stuck in mediocre and average and the terminology and your hurt feelings if you want to. I suggest you get out of those feelings and you start thinking about HVAC. You start thinking about heating and air. You start thinking about, what would it look like to be an electrician and own my own bed? And again, in ownership, not working for a salary job for somebody else unless that is your maximum skill set. So if you're somebody that says, hey, I don't want to take on the work, or I cannot take on the work of balancing the books and running the taxes and doing, got it, no problem. Then go do that.
So those aren't average jobs.
It's around your skill set. It's not about the job being average. It's your skill set. If you know that, if C and D, back to the academics, if that is your best, God bless you. I just know for a lot of us, that is the bigotry of low expectations. That is an academic social science study done by a man named Michael Gerber, okay? And it's important that we have expectations for our Black children that start at the top, to Mandy's point earlier. That says, I see the best in you. I expect the best in you. If you fall short of that, let's look at why that is. And then we go about the business of Black collaboration.
You told one big lie today.
What was that?
You are an entertainer. Because to be honest with you, nothing you said in this moment was wrong. But the clip that you put out,
it was salacious on purpose.
There's no way, Ebony, because I believe you. I know you want better for us. I know that you're speaking from a place of honesty and love. But that clip was entertainment, and I think one can't exist without the other.
Listen, I'm not saying I'm not entertaining. You know, I can see, because of course that's a part of my personality. It's a part of the nature of the work. That's my whole career path.
Yeah, so it's a grift. It's a grift. Wait, what? I don't know about that one. Black woman moving abroad. I'll have to check out that one. It's a grift to me. She's talking about families. She's talking about Black empowerment. She's talking about how much should we got? Okay, I think we got a minute and a half left now. I'm almost done because I wanted to make
what you're describing is I'm taking deep intellectual capacity and I'm marrying it with personality and aesthetic packaging that is palatable for global consumption.
So basically, you kind of got to make them feel bad.
No, I don't have to make anybody feel bad. And, y'all can say on that, y'all can take that to the grave.
For them to read it, for them
no,
to walk
my intention was never for anybody to feel bad. But to Envy's point, intention means nothing. If I step on your toe and I didn't mean to, your toe still hurts. So I'm not debating intention. Yeah. I'm saying it might have been painful, regardless of my intention. And yet, how do we move on from it? Because again, I'm not preoccupied. I'm not going to not say what I believe and feel for the sake of feelings.
I want to say, how do you feel about the American dream? And what I mean by that is the American dream is the belief that anyone, regardless of where they were born or what class they were born into, can attain their own version of success in a society in which upward mobility is possible for everyone. So all of these jobs that we're talking about, that is those people's version of success. Yeah. That is their American dream. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with them having that?
You know the answer. Nothing, Charlamagne.
Okay.
Nothing. Like, come on, we're talking circularly, to Envy's point. There's nothing wrong with that. I am simply, he said it, there are people that don't know what's possible. There are people that don't know, man, I would love to have a salon. What does that take? Well, let me start an LLC. Well, maybe I need to convert to an S corporation. Maybe I need to do this. And so when we are so caught up with feelings, because we don't want people to feel bad, we don't want to call it what people don't have access to or knowledge around, I think it's stagnant.
I think we all agree with that. And what Envy's saying, what everybody else is saying, is you can say all of that, and that's true, without calling people average, mediocre, typical, or telling them they're stuck in the low expectations.
I know Ebony more educated than me. If Ayanla asked me that question, I'd say, well, what do you look like?
I just don't
think those are words that should be used to describe the work.
And I think per the dictionary and per the facts. So again, we spent 40 minutes talking about something that's very simple, and unfortunate that this is really where we landed, Charlamagne, because we're talking about personal projections around defined words. That's really what this whole, and that's why brother is nodding.
But you can weaponize define. You can weaponize define words.
But don't put that on me because I'm not
weaponizing
whether
you think you did or not, I told you I think you did.
Well, you can think whatever you want, Charlamagne.
And a lot of other people did too.
I don't care what. It could be Jesus Christ thinking it. I know what I said. I know what I said.
Listen, Jesus Christ, you gotta listen.
I do appreciate the broader
conversation. We thank you for
I appreciate the platform. I really do. But let's be very careful that we are not so blindsided, stuck, and regressive in our feelings that we're not able to hear clearly the facts and the truth.
Ladies and gentlemen,
she's making this about we heard wrong because we're triggered. What she is saying is true. I said what I said is basically what she's saying.
Eboni K Williams.
That's it.
All right. Well, that was your rumor report too.
Bus driver gate continues.
People's choice mixes up next. We'll see you guys.
You know I love her, man.
All right.
But we should do this more often.
Just a conversation.
This should have happened last week, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
It's the People's Choice Mix. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Wake that ass up.
So she doubled down on I said what I said. That's really what it boiled down to. I said what I said. I'm doubling down on the fact that I didn't mean to hurt anybody's feelings, but the reality is that being a blue collar worker is average. And let's look at the dictionary. Being a blue collar worker is average. Let's look at the stats. It's average. All I'm trying to say is that I believe in the Black empowerment, and I believe in Black wealth, and I believe in Black building, and I believe in Black people, and I believe in Black empowerment. This is what it's all about. That was really her position, right? She's like, y'all over here making this all about me. Y'all over here making this all about some semantics. And no, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm trying to empower you. I'm trying to bring you up to the level of who you are, to the level of who you could be, to the level of the greatness, of Black greatness, of Black unity. The problem is there's nothing in her life that shows that this is actually true for her. The problem is she believes in Black men so much that she was about to marry a white man. This is why nobody takes Pro Black seriously. Because it seems like a grift. It absolutely seems like a grift. She went online and said disparaging things to blue collar men. And even if she did it, even if her intention was not to be disparaging, instead of her saying, look, you know what, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to be insulting. Instead of her doing that and just apologizing and moving on, it was I said what I said. I'm right. Yes, your results are mediocre. I believe you can do better. You should do better. Buy my book. Buy my book. I wrote it down in my book. I wrote about my book, ladies and gentlemen. Black men can do better because notice she's interchanging Black community with Black men. Anytime she brings a Black woman, it's how they don't have enough eligible partners. It's how they have college, they're doing this and this and that. Black men aren't there. So it's all this word salad. It's this whole case built up, and it's not really getting to the root issue, in my opinion. Goalposts was moved about 15 times. The original conversation with Ayanna Vanzant was not about Black empowerment. It was not about building wealth. It was not about trying to empower Black men, which if you were about that, what organizations are you working with? Are you? I'd be curious. If you know of any, guys, please let me know. Is she working with organizations to empower Black men? Is she working with Black men to ensure that they're being empowered? Because best believe Black men are not looking to her on how to be empowered. That's not, if that's what they are interested in, building themselves up, doing better, owning their own industries, buying wealth, building generational wealth. If that's what they're doing, they're not looking to her. They're likely working with other men that they respect already, but they're not going to be looking to a Real Housewives media personality on how to empower themselves as a Black man. Like, they're not doing that. So I'm like, the optics of everything to me seems very questionable, and it just doesn't really seem like this is genuine or honest, to be just quite frank, because it's like nothing about her life up to that point seems to be consistent with what she is now saying. I'm not saying people can't evolve and move on positions. They can. I do believe people can grow and evolve and change and take on more information. That can happen. Absolutely. What I am saying is that nothing about her life up to this point has shown me that this is a genuine transformation. Not when she just was engaged to a white man. Not when that just happened. Not when she refused to acknowledge the questions directly connected to her interest in building a Black community. She just completely overlooked her relationship history, completely overlooked that, would not acknowledge it. She said it's not important. And that's foundational to building a Black community. Black families are foundational to that. Without Black families, there is no Black communities. And yes, that is where Black women today in America are feeling. We see David the Bridal going out of business. That's the issue. But instead of acknowledging that, a whole lot of word salad. A whole lot of Black men this, build, empowerment, Black empowerment. We're better together, Black unity. Laid up there next to a white man. And that's Black men aren't going to take that seriously. They're not. And unfortunately, like I said, a lot of the pro-Black was what she's speaking to when she's using all these buzzwords and all these terms. People don't take it seriously because it seems like a grift. You see Black women who lead with that. When Black women lead with the pro-Black consciousness, FBA, ADOS, Pan-African B1, like when they lead with that to the point where they're almost like extra and they were aggressive, ask them how many of them have mixed kids. How many of them had a previous broken relationship with a white man? Ask them, see. And then ask them how they evolved to that point. There's one way you'll know if it's genuine or not. But if a person isn't willing to be honest with their involvement in first building a Black family, which is foundational to a Black community, if they're not willing to be honest about that, then it's not really serious, in my opinion. She makes good points. She makes good points that I think are valid and are worth addressing. Absolutely. She makes good points that I think are do need to be addressed. But there's a way in which you do it. There's a way in which you do it. And like I said, Black men aren't listening to her. They're not. A person who's really serious about that is not going to be going her book trying to take notes, buying her book trying to take notes. It's not happening. So it's not really serious. Her best, in my opinion, her best bet would have been to buy a book or to write a book that was tailored towards Black women. Because she was in Real Housewives, because she had that status, because she was at least at one point engaged to a white man, there's going to be Black women who love and respect that. She probably would have been better off talking to those women and then addressing the things that negatively impact them. But no, she took very much a feminist slants. All these Black women are going to college. There's no Black men there. There's a problem. There's a problem. Buy my book. And it's like, am I really supposed to take that seriously? Am I really supposed to take that seriously, y'all? So anyways, this was a lot. So he says this was a power discussion. Yeah, right. It says, Ms. Sade, this puts your apology to BGS and Black manosphere in a whole new light, night and day. Yeah, that's a prime example. I said some things that were like offensive. I was misinformed on some points. I was completely misinformed. I was later on informed on the truth or a better perspective, and I owned it. And I was like, I'm sorry. I was wrong on this. I was wrong on that. And I'll try to be better and more clear and more concise and moving forward. Prime example. Nobody gets it all right. Nobody gets it all right. So I'm not really looking for perfection. I mean, that's never going to happen. You're not going to find it here. But it's like you can at least hope that you're going to see honesty, and a willingness to admit when you're wrong, things of that nature. So anyways, that was a lot. Also, I did want to acknowledge, I do think I saw at least one Cash App come through. My phone is acting kind of weird, you guys, so bear with me. My phone's been acting weird for some time. And it's like, I'm not getting notified, but I think I saw a Cash App from somebody. Was it Barry Hamilton? I think it was Barry Hamilton. You can guys like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. This was an interesting conversation. I was going to open up the panel, but I don't know if there's interest. Yeah, it was Barry Hamilton, 631. Says keep cooking Jay. Thank you. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Barry, with the for the Cash App. Yeah, so I got through the whole thing, you guys. Really, at the end of the day, you guys kind of already know what it is. It is kind of unfortunate to see how this went down and evolved. Probably the good news for her is that it is, it's more eyeballs for her book. It's more exposure for her, which maybe she'll be able to leverage into more money. Now, does anybody believe her? At least I don't. I don't really believe her. I think this further reiterates why there are men out there who don't really take certain women seriously. And in my opinion, they didn't really do well at addressing some of the core issues. You said evolve in a day, possibly. Yeah, no, ain't nobody evolving in a day. Ain't nobody evolving in a day at all. Not regarding those key issues. And he said, yeah, damage control talk. Yeah, right. There's a whole lot of damage control, but it wasn't even like damage control, because she didn't even like, she barely issued an apology, and it wasn't even a full apology. She was like, I said what I said, and I'm sorry if you guys took what I said offensively. I'm sorry if you guys. So it became about what we didn't do and how we misunderstood or how we were triggered by the truth of what she said. So I'm like, is that even an apology? Is that even damage control? Because if anything, it comes off as even more elitist and is even more kind of prideful, for lack of a better term, you know? Oh, I'm not familiar with her position on, I'm not familiar at all in her position on Will Smith slapping Chris Rock, but I don't agree with that. Yeah, I don't agree with that. Anyways, guys, this was fun. I know I'm sorry, you guys. Thank you for bearing with me. I had a little midstream mishap I had to handle behind the closed doors. But anyways, guys, if you like this, be sure to like, share, subscribe. I'm trying to think if I missed anything else. I think yeah, I think I got everything. So yeah, guys, like, share, subscribe. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you're notified each time I go live. And yeah, we'll talk later, guys, okay?